Hey guys, welcome to Kansas City Business Cast. This is your host, Michael Reisinger. Here I've got two very special guests today. I have Dr. Dave McNiel and Dr. Eric Vargas from TrueFix Physical Therapy here in Overland Park, Kansas. They are not your typical physical therapy clinic. Gentlemen, so glad to be here today. Thanks for hosting me here in your building.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to have this conversation with you guys for a while. Since I launched this podcast, I was thinking about, places that I'm a fan of here in the city and people that are doing great work. And I think you guys know, I just started the Instagram thing. So I wasn't really up to speed on that. And your guys' account is one that I look forward to. Every time something comes up in my feed from you guys, I'm like, I'm going to watch the whole thing because this is a tip about posture or flexibility. And I think that's one of the things that makes you guys not your typical physical therapy clinic too. And I know we'll get into the philosophies that drive you guys, but I've been looking forward to this. You guys are the first duo, business owner team that I've interviewed on the podcast. So we'll just take a moment here to go ahead and, introduce yourselves, maybe talk a little bit about why you got into physical therapy, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. So
awesome.
Eric, if you want to start.
Sure.
Go for
that's
it.
Great. So a little bit about myself, born and raised here in Kansas City. Got into physical therapy originally to help people, like most other physical therapists. That's why we get into the profession. I started working at an outpatient orthopedic clinic, pretty standard insurance-based clinic, and it was awesome. And that leads to our origin story. So Dave was actually my boss there, which was awesome. Amazing culture, great place to work. Everything was great, but the model just wasn't for me, meaning, just the way they ran things there. We were seeing, on average, 2 to sometimes 3 people an hour. And, it's okay for some people, but a lot of people just need more time. They need to have that opportunity to really dive into a lot more things with their physical therapist: stress, sleep, nutrition, all that good stuff. So I just kind of felt the calling to start this business, TrueFix Physical Therapy. And so when I did that, everybody was super supportive. Dave was the most supportive of me, actually, as my boss. He was super amped up to welcome, I guess send me off. He wished me well. I did it for about a year on my own. I learned a lot, kind of got it going. And then about a year in, Dave and I just reconnected, and he was interested, and I'll let him tell his side of the story. But, here we are. It's been a great journey, and it's something that I've really enjoyed doing with Dave. But
Yeah, that sums up a good amount of it. From his end, I'll kind of share my story as well. I kind of was the non-traditional physical therapy route. I actually got a business degree in marketing, and I worked for an advertising company for 3 years. And I think I liked it for 1 year, and then it just took me 2 years to get the guts to pursue something else, figure out what else I wanted to do. My wife was a nurse at the time in the ICU. I was jealous of what she was doing. She was actually helping people, whereas I was working in marketing on banner ads, and these clients are getting all mad, yelling at me about a banner ad, and I'm treating it like it's life or death, and my wife is actually helping people on their deathbed. And so I was super jealous of what she was doing, and I wanted that type of reward, not just the compensation. So I feel like I realized early on that I want a job, I want a profession that suits me, that I'm actually going to get fulfilled with, rather than just make a lot of money. So for me, the money's not it. It's more about, what am I doing? Am I getting fulfilled from it? And so I listed out, I did some job shadowing. I listed out a few job opportunities that I was interested in, and I chose the hardest route, which was physical therapy school. So I basically had to go back to school for 4 more years, got my doctorate at KU Med, which was awesome. And then I started working at the same company that Eric was just talking about. And then I moved my way up to become the clinic director after 2 years, managing a team of, between that time frame, 4 to 6 therapists. Hired Eric. He was awesome. And then 2 years later, he told me that he had the desire to do his own thing. And just like he said, I did wish him well. We had a beer, we talked about it, and I said, hey, man, good luck. If things don't work out, I'll have you back in a heartbeat. And so I had that kind of thought. but I was also hoping that he did really, really well, because that's what I always wanted for my staff anyways. I wanted to provide a great place for them to work, a good environment, but I also want them to do what's best for them too. So for Eric, I thought that was amazing that he went off and did his own thing. And then, kept in touch with him. Me personally, I've always wanted to do something kind of on my own a little bit. I just never had the guts to do it. So Eric, more that entrepreneurship mindset, he had the guts. Maybe it was a time thing for him. For me, I always had the excuse of not to. Like, I've got a family to raise. I've got the secure job. I've got the benefits, all that other stuff. And then kind of at the beginning of COVID, I actually got into real estate a little bit. So I just dabbled a little bit with buying property and managing that. And for me, it was a hard thing, right? Or it was something.
As an investor.
As an investor, yes. As a property manager, investor. So I have, a couple places. That just showed me that I could do something hard, something that I don't know anything about. I can do something and get rewarded from it. And it just, again, it showed me like maybe I am ready to depart from my comfort zone of the clinic that I was at, managing a team. I was just set in my ways. And then in talking with Eric, I was just excited about his model, what he was doing. And, we chatted. I said, hey, that's awesome. I would love to do something like that. And I think, he asked if I wanted to work for him, and it was kind of like what if I worked with you type of a thing. And I think at first he wanted to just do his own thing, which I totally respect that. But for me, in order for me to get out of that comfort zone, like, I wanted to do something big. So it was either, join on as a partner with him or maybe even do my own thing at that point. So that's kind of a long roundabout way of telling my origin story with PT in general, and then kind of how I got here to being with Eric at TrueFix.
I love it. And there was stuff, I know you guys a little bit, right? But what I love about doing this is I always learn something new. And so I think that's awesome. When you said you liked what Eric was doing, his model, let's talk about that. Why is TrueFix not your typical physical therapy clinic? And you guys can spend as much time on that as you want, but I really think it's important for everybody to know why what you're doing is different, it's unique, it's new, and people are getting well here because of the work that you're doing. So feel free to riff on that.
Cool. Yeah, it's different. In the healthcare field, we're starting to see more of this. Primary care physicians, orthopedic surgeons, dermatologists, you name it. These docs are going out of network with insurance and going the primary kind of fee-for-service route. And we're starting to see that more with the physical therapy side of things too. So we're not the only ones. It's definitely becoming more popular around the nation. But what we do essentially is we've taken insurance out of the equation. So part of the problem, Michael, is that at these clinics that are taking your insurance, they're negotiating that contract with the insurance. And unfortunately, those contracts aren't great. Insurance isn't paying a lot of money to the clinic to provide those services. And so to stay afloat, the clinic then has to say, okay, we just got to see a lot more people, right?
Which is what you said you didn't like in the very beginning, right? 2 or 3 people an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so, the clinic is then forced to see more people just to make a profit. And so it's a pretty big burden. And in my opinion, the ultimate, the person that pays the biggest price for that is the patient themselves, right? So so in this model, it's a little different. We take insurance out of the equation, and because we do that, we're able to spend a full hour with our patients, one-on-one. Again, we're not limited with what we can do or what we can't do. We don't have any sort of third-party payer down our back saying, this service is covered, this service isn't covered. We have full autonomy to have a conversation with the person in front of us and say, this is what's best for you. This is how I want to tackle it. Let's do it. And so it's just really freeing. Yep.
Yeah, and the other kind of misconception is that using the insurance is going to be cheaper, and that's usually not the case because a lot of people's insurances, they have a high deductible plan where they have to pay the first $3,000 to $5,000 on their own anyways. And if you go to these insurance model clinics, their fees are going to be really high, and you're going to be paying that fee out of pocket. The only exception would be if you had a surgery or you had lots of medical expenses, you've met that deductible, and then, the patient's only responsible for their 20% of coinsurance, or maybe their out-of-pocket's been met and it's free. So there are some different variations where, that model is going to be a little bit more affordable. But again, the attention that they're going to get is not going to be the same as here. It's just a lot different. People that have been through that model and then they come here, first visit, they're like, wow, I get it. I see the difference and I understand and I want to do this. So it is a lot different. We don't feel pressured by insurance companies to do certain things or to not do certain things because it's all inclusive. So whatever it is we think is going to be best for that person in the moment, we're going to do it.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever talked on the podcast how passionate I am about this direct care provider model, but my wife and I, we use it for our personal health care. And I know, like, Stephanie, my wife, has come and met with Danielle here, which you guys added Danielle to the fold here just this year, right? A couple months ago. Mm-hmm. And so what I love too, I think this is happening in Kansas City as well. And this is why I tell everybody, it's called the Kansas City Business Cast, but really this is an example of what is happening or should be happening in other cities. But what I see you guys networking with other disciplines, and there is sort of an outcry happening in healthcare. And you mentioned COVID too. A lot of it came out of that as well. But I guess if I just heard you talk about this and I'm not happy with, my current physical therapy or my experience with physical therapy, what type of patient or demographic do you think would do best here in coming? Like, I know you guys have been in business now for 3 years.
Over 2.5.
Just a little over 2.5. So you kind of know now who's coming in, who you'd like to see, draw to the clinic, and who has the most success. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much less about who we think is the best fit, and it's more about how motivated they are to get better. So it's like it doesn't matter what you look like, what how much you weigh, what your past athletic abilities are. That none of that matters. It's, are you motivated to get better now? And if you are, then you're going to do really well with us, because we put a lot of that emphasis on the patient. So we're not just giving them fluff treatment where we're massaging them and stretching them out and saying see you later. We are really guiding them. We're trying to educate them, trying to help them pass their problems, not just to get rid of the pain now, but to keep it away. And so that just takes, just like anything else worth getting in life, that just takes hard work and dedication and discipline. And so those people that have that are going to do really well with us.
Yeah, for sure. We kind of see ourselves as the guide. The person that is coming in is driving the ship, but we're guiding them in the right direction. So we're putting a lot of it on them to be compliant and do the things, and then touch base with us to let us know how it's going. That way we can make the appropriate, adjustments and recommendations for them. But at the end of the day, it's their body. They're the ones that are in control of, their destination there. Right.
When you're talking about, I love that, how it's up to the patient, and how motivated they are. What has been one of the biggest lessons that you've learned in going to this model? Because you guys were both kind of raised up in it, right? Traditional education, right? You went to, KU Med, right, to get your qualifications and all that, and then you've seen how the model works. What's been the biggest sort of, or maybe a list of lessons that you've learned in going to this? Aha moments, things that have helped you with continuous improvement, because I know you guys are just relentless with improving. You're totally, like, you literally eat, sleep, and breathe 1% better or 10% better every day. But what kind of lessons have you learned in going to this model, I guess?
I think, in a lot of different, aspects. And one of the sides, more on the patient side, that I've learned is that although these kind of, expenditures sound scary, investing, paying out of pocket for your care, a lot of people would assume that the only individuals that can afford that are people with a lot of money. One thing that I've learned is I've been told a lot of times by people, people have looked at me in the eyes and said, no, I'm not going to pay for this, that have plenty of money. You know what I mean? They're doing just fine. And I've had people that are probably not doing as well. You know, they're in a rough patch in life, living paycheck to paycheck, let's say, but they truly value what they're going to gain from here, and so they make the investment. And that's just one really cool thing that I see, that people who really care and that want to get better are gonna make, you know, are gonna prioritize that and prioritize their physical health that way. So that's just been a great eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, for me, this is the way physical therapists should be able to treat. I mean, we learn all these techniques and we get all this education in the school, and then we come out and we have to learn the insurance game and how do we do all this other stuff. And then when we come into here, like when I first started with Eric, I was like, oh shit, like I'm on my own. I can do whatever I want. Like not whatever I want, but whatever this person needs. And then it's just like, okay, like all the stuff that I actually know, I can implement right now. And it's really cool. So stuff that gets me excited about coming here and working, like I get even more excited about being able to bring on my colleagues in the future. So once we get busy enough to where we can justify bringing on some other physical therapists, because this is the way that physical therapists should be able to treat. And this is the way that people should be able to receive their physical therapy care. So that's kind of what gets me excited about everything. And I don't know if you can see the passion that we have in this. That's the big difference too, is that like we care so much about this.
Yeah. I love, and I've talked to you about this before too, but like, I think I'd asked you one point, like, you know, how will you guys hire when you need more people? And you just kind of said, man, we got a waiting list. You know, we got a list of people that we would love to invite into this. How do you guys network with other professionals, and how have you built that sort of, I guess, pool of people that you're considering for, hey, when this thing grows, when we grow this, when we can scale, you know, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I've been a physical therapist in this same area for quite some time now, so I have a lot of contacts. I know a lot of PTs around the area. So to your point, I think it would be easy. You know, a lot of people probably relish in what we are doing here and actually want to be able to do this. But one, they don't have the guts to jump ship and start their own thing, or two, there's just not an opportunity. So when the time comes, yeah, we already have people in mind for sure. We know we have a vision in mind for what we want the company to do and how we want to build it. And there's some key players that we would love to have on board for that we already know, or that type of a person. So not to limit ourselves to the Kansas City area, we would definitely welcome people from outside. But there's just so many good therapists in the Kansas City area as well. And for networking with other businesses, you know, we've met with other small practices, so we have a lot of connections that way. And like I said, I know just a lot of other PTs that have worked the traditional model, and then also some that are doing the same thing that we're doing too. So
right.
It's fun. You know, it's fun to be able to talk with other practitioners that are doing similar things, because we don't see each other as threats, even though we're doing the same thing. There's so many people in the area that need help, to where it's not going to bother me if there's somebody 5 miles down the road doing close to the same thing as what we're doing here, because hey, that's just competition, friendly competition, and like I hope the best for them. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to trash on you, or I'm going to tell people bad things about you. Not at all. It's like a different level of respect that we have for these business owners. So I'll let you follow up with anything that you have there, Eric.
I just got to say, I love that abundance mindset too, that there's plenty of people that need care, and not seeing competitors as a threat. That's come up from other guests as well. So that's validation for me that I'm bringing the right people on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Totally. I love it. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, back to the whole hiring thing. I mean, if you look at the burnout rates in the healthcare field, it's astonishingly high, and it's especially high in physical therapy. And it's because of this whole thing that's going on with therapists just not able to treat the way that they feel they need to, seeing a lot of people getting burnt out, not feeling fulfilled. And so that's a big driver for us. Vision that we have is being able to provide that place for someone to work without necessarily needing to take the risk in starting their own practice. Because right now, most people that are practicing the way we are just small business owners like us. And while entrepreneurship is cool and I love it and Dave loves it and it's our jam, it's not everybody's jam, right? Some people just want to be good physical therapists, and that's what we want to provide. It's like, just focus on being a good PT, do what you love to do. Don't worry about, you don't have to take the risk. You don't have to start your own practice. Like, so we're just really excited for that. And just providing a cool place to work is something we look forward to.
Absolutely. So, another thing that's awesome about you guys that I just, reason why I'm a raving fan is the presence that you have on your social media, because it's you two doing these instructional videos. And of course, I'm going to drop all the links in the show notes so people will be able to go. Everybody go follow TrueFix PT on Instagram for sure. But how did that develop? Was that like a natural thing for you guys, or is that a skill you had to learn?
Yeah, definitely something you just got to try and like get good at. So to answer your question, it's a skill that you have to refine. But it just kind of comes in. We're trying to educate people, so I think it's just fun to sit down and think of some cool posts that we would be interested in touching on, having fun, letting people see that we're just some average people as well, just trying to help out. But hey, thank you. That's a great compliment for us. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to put some good content out there, help people out, get our name out there, and provide value. I think that's pretty much what we try to like. Anything that we do, any marketing event that we do, any content piece that we do, whatever is going on, we both try to just kind of take a step back, ground ourselves, and say, how can we provide the most value? That's always how we try to lead with. So that's kind of how we approach it.
Yeah, I love that it's a patient education mechanism. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head right there. It's like, it's not social media. It's me educating my people out there. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
I was just gonna say we're just trying to build a relationship with the people so that they learn about us, trust us, so that when the time comes and they need some help, they know that they can count on us. It's not if you look at all of our posts, there's not many in there that say, hey, come in for this, come in for that, or we'll do this for you at this price. It's more of just like, here's some things that you can do. Work on this. Like you said, some postural awareness, different things like that. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is push out value. Just like Eric said, is that we want to provide value to people to where, they get a lot out of it. And then again, they like and trust us to where when they do need something in the future that we'll help them out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll just take a moment and tell you, like, one of my favorite videos was the one where I think you injured your elbow. Was it in jiu-jitsu?
It was.
Yeah. And I was dealing with the same type of injury at the same time. And I think you said at the first point, you said, I'm going to stay away from ibuprofen. And I was like, huh? And I always whenever somebody says something that's divergent or non-conventional, it gets my attention because I value that. I'm always looking at the person who is swimming the other way, and I'm like, they know something everybody else doesn't. You talked about, the motion, and you were just showing all these different ways to help it. And that was something that I could apply. The way you guys explain why, and you always kind of start with the problem, and then it's like, here's what you can do, and here's how you're doing it right, But on that subject too, about how you guys stay active, because as I've met healthcare providers, it's kind of like a mixture of stories. Like, there's people who they always cared about it, and so they were always healthy. And then there's people who had like a life-changing event, and then they got serious. And then, but wellness in general and how you guys take care of yourselves, where did that begin?
I think that's what makes the job easy for us, is that we genuinely like it and enjoy it and want to learn ourselves, for our own personal benefits and health. So we're out there, practicing what we preach. So a lot of these ideas and things that you see is like from stuff that we either applying for ourselves, or we see somebody do something wrong a lot and we're like, hey, okay, this seems to be a common thing. Like, we should probably educate on why that's not the right thing to do, type of a thing. I never had like a serious injury that I came back from. Like, that's the typical PT is like, oh, I had my ACL tear and playing soccer. I rehabbed, fell in love with physical therapists, and that's why I want to be a PT. That's not me. I've fortunately, knock on wood, that I've not sustained a terrible injury like that. I did have a meniscus surgery, and I didn't get rehab afterwards. And I think I was 22. And at that point, I knew nothing about physical therapy at all. That's when I was working the advertising job, and I just thought, okay, oh yeah, he just told me to go home and rest and do a couple of things. Was given a sheet of paper with 3 exercises,
with some stick figure doing range of motion.
Exactly. Did the thing. I think I lost the paper after a day. Bled through my sheets. It was awful. I had a pretty bad recovery from that. I wish I knew more about rehab at that time because I would have done things way different and I probably would have had an amazing recovery because it was a simple procedure. So I guess I did have a little bit of a thing, but I didn't have that same type of drive that a lot of the physical therapists do have. But yeah, I just have a general interest in health, wellness, physical fitness. I like to push myself hard in a lot of different things. For me, rock climbing. So as you said, ROKC, that's a place where I started going there because I helped a rock climber rehab from an injury. And so I said, hey, as part of your, graduation, I'm going to take you down the street to ROKC and we're going to climb. And that was the first time I'd been there. And I just kind of fell in love. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is back when I was working the other job, a little bit more stressful, a little bit more stress in my life. And I just found some stress relief from that. And so, yeah, I joined, climbed a lot, and then realized they have some other stuff going on there with exercise. And long story short, now one day a week I lead a fitness class there, which is a lot of fun. So grown to know some different people there, community. It's been nice networking for business, but also I would do that anyways, just for fun.
Right. It's awesome.
Yeah. What about you, Eric?
So cool.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Dave said it well. We care about it and we stay active, and it's something that's important for us intrinsically. So, it's just, and I met you through Brazil Academy, right? So our jiu-jitsu academy. That's a perfect example of something that I had never tried, I had never done, similar to maybe Dave, had never rock climbed and then showed up one day and loved it. It's like, that was the same thing. It's like just appreciating movement and exercise for what it is and appreciating it for its not just its physical benefits, but also its mental benefits. And, everything that comes with that, the community that you get from that, it's just a beautiful thing. So a lot of times when we have people come in here, they it's kind of half and half. Some people already have their thing. They know what it is that they love. But sometimes people come in here and they haven't quite found it. So it's fun for us to kind of help guide them and maybe thinking like, hey, try this, try that. Have you ever thought about this? Helping them find their own kind of love because we're, I'll speak for myself, but, Dave and I are very similar. But, what I don't appreciate is all of these just one size fits all statements from a lot of these, subject matter experts out there.
Like what?
Like
hit us.
Yeah. Like
drop them.
The best way to lose fat is this, like only do this, like whether it's for diet or exercise. The best way to build muscles is like, sure, there are some things that you can do that are probably going to be more effective than others. But at the end of the day, when we're thinking about health and wellness and longevity, it's about finding what you enjoy and finding what you can do for a long time. That's what's the most important thing. Because if you try to do this 16-week program that this influencer is telling you is like the only way you can accomplish this goal, but you hate doing it, you're not going to stick with it. And you might get some short-term benefits, but you're not going to get the long-term benefits. So it's about finding that thing that you love, that thing that really speaks to you, so you can just do it forever. Because this is a lifelong thing, right? This isn't just health and wellness and physical, mental, all that kind of stuff. It's a lifelong thing. So that's where the angle we come from.
Did you guys ever do that Insanity program from Beachbody?
Sean T. Oh, yeah.
So that one drew me in because it was called Insanity.
Yeah,
and I'm like a metalhead and I'm all about this stuff. And then I did it. I was doing it with P90X. And that's probably why I hated it. But I think, workout programs can burn people out, not just on that program, but then they can actually communicate in their mind like, yeah, you know what? This is right. All those voices, they were right. This isn't for me. Mm-hmm. I can't do this. So I love how you're saying like it's about what you enjoy. What are some of the things people enjoy, like your clients? What are some of the strangest things you've heard about or most unique things people have gotten hurt doing, a type of sport? I mean, just to kind of open it up to like, what people enjoy typically that are coming here.
We get a little bit of everything. Something as kind of simple as long distance running, right? We got a long distance runners that come in here. CrossFitters, power lifters, rock climbers, yogis, jiu-jitsu athletes.
Lots of jujitsu.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, we've had some of those in there. Yeah, I mean, you name it. Just you have any?
Yeah, there's also just a lot of boring things too. I mean, people get injured. You know, they slip on ice, or they reach for their seatbelt the wrong way, and just their shoulder wasn't ready for it, and they tweak something. So it's not always the most glamorous, like saving a child out of a burning building and they injured themselves. Usually, it's something that just is a little bit more boring, like repetition over time of doing the wrong thing, and then finally the straw broke the camel's back, and that's what they need help with. So what's cool about us is that we just meet people where they are, wherever. It doesn't matter what they've done in the past, but hey, where are you at now? What have you tried? What's successful and what's not? And then they feel that when they come in here too, is that okay, they're not judging me. Because a lot of people have, a lot of self-doubt and fears, and they're embarrassed and ashamed of like where they are physically and mentally too. And so I feel like what we do is really, with the amount of time that we have here, we dive into that and like let them know, hey, there's no judgment here, and doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You're here now. Let's take with what you got and just move forward. And so, again, the type of injury or like the way it happened always isn't the coolest part. It's the journey of like, hey, you're starting now, and let's see how good we can get you.
Right.
I love what Dave was saying there, and just to kind of add on, because you had asked the question earlier, Michael, about what kind of differentiates us from maybe the more typical model. And I think, a big thing that we do is we like to talk to people about their goals, right? And so, like Dave said, we're going to meet someone where they're at, but we also want to understand, where do they want to be, right? Where do they want to go? And we're going to be a guide to get them there. And unfortunately, your insurance doesn't care about that, right? Your insurance cares if you're sleeping with less than 2 out of 10 neck pain, right? Once that's happening, okay, cool. The rehab is done, right? They're not necessarily going to sign off on a lot of the more intrinsic, the more individual goals that you might have, right? So just back to that topic of what might make us a little different is that we can actually talk about those things, and we can have those be goals that we try to reach together as those bigger overarching goals that maybe the typical insurance plan or whatever is not going to necessarily pay for.
Right. So, we had talked about building a business and all of the things that you guys have learned doing that. Talked about the journey, people's journeys coming in here. What are some things that you've tried that maybe didn't work out so well that you maybe had to adjust your approach on, or something that you were really excited about, but then your clients were just kind of like, just indifferent? Anything like that? I guess that's on the lessons learned subject.
Yeah. I think the biggest one is us just trying to figure out how we can best help people in the most effective way for the least amount of money, right? We don't want to bleed people dry either. And so we've just had a lot of fun having conversations about how can we create a program? How can we create a plan of care? How can we change it up a little bit? How can we incorporate certain things that would provide more value for them? And we've tried different ones, and it's just kind of funny, to see you try something out and you're like, hey, this is an idea. Let's try it. You try it on a few people, and it's not the best one, right? It's not that it was bad, but it didn't maybe, it wasn't communicated well enough, or something wasn't buttoned up with it, or for whatever reason. So we've learned quite a few things with just how we want to deliver our services, and in what way, how do we want to package that up? We've learned a lot on that front. So yeah.
And we also just have to realize that stuff that we care about deeply and love isn't always the most interesting stuff to other people too. And so, like when we're brainstorming, hey, let's talk about like this next newsletter article. Like, I want to write about this, and then we think about it and we're like, yeah, people aren't going to care about that. Like,
can you give me an example of like maybe something that?
Oh, it was something along the lines of, do this dynamic warm up type thing instead of stretching, or it was almost like about like, hey, stretching isn't the best thing for you, or something like that.
Sure.
But what we know is that people love to stretch. So if we were going to go do something in a community and it says like, hey, free stretching or massage, there might be a line of people there, even if we don't feel like, hey, what you need is not stretching. But at least we would then be able to have that encounter with the individual and talk to them about like, hey, yeah, this stretching here is cool, but if this is what you have going on, it's not going to address the issue. It's only going to kind of temporarily feel good, which is why, yeah, it feels good during, but like what you need is strength. So just coming up with the message and like being able to deliver it in a way that somebody will consume that information. And it's not coming from like the PT brain, because what I was initially writing might be good for the PT crowd. The average person that's reading it may not understand it or care as much. So that would be just kind of like one example there of how we have kind of just made some adaptations to like how we're delivering that information. And like with Instagram content, we're trying to keep things short, sweet, simple, and applicable to most people too, rather than, hey, let me come up with this really long post that's going to show like this. So lots of learnings that we've had along the way.
Yeah. So you mentioned something too, like if we go out to a place, I think you were maybe alluding to like outreach, right? Because I focused on the Instagram thing, and and then you started talking about newsletters, and I was like, man, I should probably ask them about all the ways that they engage with the community and what you guys do. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we try to do a little bit of everything, but I guess you could break it up into like in-person local efforts.
Sure.
So that'll include, we'll go to local gyms and hold workshops, right? So we might hold a workshop over back pain or knee pain or something like that, where we're going in and educating the clients, the members of that gym. That's a good example. Sometimes we like to just go to gyms and just meet the staff there. So we'll meet the personal trainers there. We'll get to know them. We'll have them come into our office. We want them to know how we work, so that if they do come across somebody that could use our help, they kind of know where they're sending them. They kind of know, they can speak to it a little bit more. What else, Dave? Local side. Races. We just did a race this past weekend. We did the gobbler grind. So we had our tables out there, provided some post-race soft tissue mobilizations.
Is that like one of those mud runs or Spartan races? Or
this one was a 5K, 10K, half, and full marathon.
Okay.
So just like a standard. But we have done that. We've done kind of more of the obstacle course races.
The Timber Challenge race.
Yeah.
The ones over at Zip KC in Bonner Springs. Yeah.
Yep.
Stephanie did one a couple years ago before we had kids. Yeah,
nice.
She got grimy, man. It was gnarly.
Yep.
And that was when I was morbidly obese and all that stuff. So that's kind of like, sorry, little side note there, but like that's another reason why I'm sitting here with you guys, because I think this stuff is important. People need to hear about this. But sorry, Dave, go ahead. You were talking about local outreach and how you guys do that.
Yeah, some of those different races, we found that to be a good thing for us to be present at. And we've changed our approach with those different things a little bit, to where like this last weekend at the Gobbler Grind, we didn't have a table with like pamphlets and all that other stuff. We just had our 2 plinths and our hands. We brought some other tools like massage gun and stuff like that. But our purpose for going there was to provide recovery care, not to go there and like start selling stuff of like, hey, you're hurt, come to our clinic. Or it wasn't we didn't even hang a banner up. I think I was wearing a TrueFix hat. So at one point we were like, maybe we should at least have something up so people know like we're legit and we're not just some random dudes with tables.
What are those 2 random guys? They're going to show up to the next race?
Yeah.
What were they from again?
Right.
But, we've done the other approach before where we have all this signage and here's our 3-step plan to decrease your pain and all this stuff. And not as many people would come. And so we're like, why is that? It's like, we just wanted to be more authentic. Like, hey, we're just here to provide the service. And if you have something going on and you're here, like, we'll help you through it. So, and it actually was awesome.
It was amazing to see that. That was,
we had a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, how full did you guys feel like in your heart after that?
It was just a good example of like a test, right? Like, hey, let's try this. And it just ended up working. So it was cool. It was great to see that.
Yeah, we feel good doing stuff like that anyways, but like he said, that was more of a test. Like, hey, let's just see what happens if we just show up without all the bells and whistles and just be present and be helpful to this group of runners. So it was fun though. Like I said, the weather was perfect until the very end. It started raining, but yeah. So those are just a few different examples of like some other like outreach things that we do. We're members of the Chamber of Commerce for Overland Park. We first joined that when we moved here to Overland Park from Prairie Village, just as a way to network. Get our roots set, meet some other business owners, go to some different events, and it's been cool. So I feel more connected with the community and other business owners of places that I wouldn't have, necessarily walked into and wanted to like chat with them. And I mean, you never know who's going to be a good contact. We're in the business of helping people feel better and get out of pain, and it doesn't matter what business they're in. Everybody hurts at some point in their life. So it's just cool to, hey, we'll go to a lot of different things. And to his point, sometimes it's a test. Like, hey, let's just test this out. Let's go to this this business luncheon, or let's go to do a race, or whatever it may be. But just getting out there, being present, being visible. You never know who you're going to meet and like what that could turn into. So, we don't take those situations lightly and just like half-ass it. We're going to go there and try to meet people and like really find out if there is, something that we can help them out with.
I'm reminded of something that you guys said earlier. We're always looking at ways to provide value to people, and value at a race does not look like a bunch of freaking banners, because God knows everybody else is going to do that.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm. Again. So it's like, you know what? Instead of the banners, I'm going to grab my Theragun or whatever it was that you had to help people. And then you have fun doing it. I'm also reminded of how freaking wicked creative you guys are with your approach to just trying it. Like, I mean, it's a scientific method in business, right? Like, here's my hypothesis. Here's what I think I should do, and then I'm going to go out and implement all these small tests of change. It's like, sorry, my lean brain's coming out now, like the Edward Deming plan, do, check, act cycle, and just see what works, see what doesn't work. Always talk about why, always adapt, always overcome. That's something that you guys are so fortunate to have your partnership in this business. Maybe there's somebody out there, maybe they're not a physical therapist, but maybe they've been doing business on their own. They're a solopreneur, and they're starting to get growth based on their own success. What would you say to people? Like, what should they be looking for in a potential business partner? How would they know, too, how it's maybe not the best time to go and give part of your business to a person and trust? Because that's another thing. As I've been consulting in the area, there are people that, like, they're so good, but now they're like the one, their customers solely rely upon them.
Right.
And as long as it's like that, they're never going to grow, because they've got to be able to replicate themselves,
Yeah. So again, kind of like origin story, I was on my own for a year before Dave and I even started talking. And it was really cool because it's kind of like the stars aligned. And Michael, you and I have talked about these books by Gino Wickman,
yes, sir.
Rocket Fuel and Traction. I had just happened to read Rocket Fuel randomly before even, it was probably like a month before Dave and I started talking. And for any solopreneurs out there that are kind of going at it alone or interested in maybe what partnership could look like, things to consider are what is that dynamic going to be like, right? One of the things that gave me a lot of optimism and excitement to bring Dave on was his strengths truly match, take care of my weaknesses in a real way. So, in that book, they talk about the visionary and the integrator and so that's our relationship. I'm the guy that's every day I've got 10 new ideas, and Dave will, say 9 of them suck. And then for the first one, or for one of them, he'll be like, hey, but let's try that one. And I'm like, cool, let's try it. And so that's kind of back to the point of kind of, a lot of the stuff we do is for personal enjoyment, but we are business owners. And so we're always trying to be better and scale and just try to improve our systems. And so a lot of that is testing. And so being able for me to have my ideas, but then to bounce them off somebody like Dave that's a little cooler, cooler head, calm, is going to think through certain things, and then give me feedback on that. And then we can just be refined into what we are actually going to test. Because me, myself, as somebody who just has a lot of ideas, if I'm by myself, I'm liable to do a few things. Either I'm going to try 10 different things and they're all going to suck, and I'm going to waste some time, or maybe I won't even try anything because I'm going to be like analysis paralysis, right? I'm just going to have so many ideas and not know where to start or where to go. So it's just been a really good balance to be able to I'll speak on that's from my end. Bringing somebody on, finding somebody that has strengths that complement me was a big deal. So.
Yeah, business ownership, there's a lot of things to do. And so it's nice to be able to divvy up the tasks into things that you enjoy and like, and not do the things that you don't like. So I think I remember Eric saying the first week I started and I took over the QuickBooks, he's like, I slept like a baby. Like he was actually telling me, he was like, man, I've had some like rough nights sleeping. And now that I know that you're on board and like we're doing this thing together, he's like, I slept like a rock. and that was awesome. Like really awesome to hear. So that, and then the other thing is just, we have the same vision and end goal in mind too. So I think that's super important when you're partnering with somebody else, is that, to your point, this isn't Vargas McNiel physical therapy. This is TrueFix physical therapy. Like,
that's right.
We're starting out. We're business owners. We're also working in the business. We're the practitioners, with Danielle as well. But our ultimate goal is not to be doing this, what we're doing now, forever. Like, we want to grow this business to where, like we mentioned, we have some other practitioners, and then Eric and I can. Yes, we still want to practice. We don't want to just get out completely, but like we want to start to fade back at some point and focus more on the business stuff, because it is hard. It's a challenge to do everything. A day that we have like a full day of patients, it's like, oh man, okay, I really got to get the courage up to like do all the business stuff now at night or early in the morning. It's tough to juggle all the things, but it is nice to have a partner on board that's really supportive and helpful and doing half of the things. Like, I can't imagine if I had to do all the things that Eric does and the things that I do in the patient care. And I think he probably feels the same thing too, as the workload that he has that's more administrative, business minded, in the patient care. It's just nice to be able to kind of split that up. But like I said, the main thing is that we're on the same page with everything. And from the very beginning, we tried to do things right. This wasn't, even though we knew each other beforehand, this wasn't a back of the napkin deal. Like, we got lawyer involved. We have operating agreement that lists out all of the specifics of everything that we don't want to happen, right? Like,
clarity is
somebody
kind,
dies,
right?
What happens? Somebody wants to buy out or get out. We have all that structure is sound and set from the very beginning, and it was decided. So we're not figuring that stuff out right now, a year later. That. So,
and you've
that's
probably
been really
saved
good.
Yourself an immense amount of heartache by doing that.
Yeah,
yep,
for sure.
Begin with the end in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I just feel like asking you guys. It just occurred to me as I was listening to you. You talked about being an entrepreneur and managing all the business. You guys are both dads, and how do you prioritize being, running the business with, your marriage and with your kids, and what does that look like? Ask you, Dave, first.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a different type of challenge, but one of the unique things is that we have some freedom and flexibility to make our schedules how we want them. Obviously, we want to deliver patient care, and sometimes that's at times where we don't want to be here potentially because of something else going on. But, with far enough in advance, I can block off a couple hours to go to my daughter's choir concert or a dentist appointment or whatever that is, and not have to use PTO and request and all that other stuff that might be a little bit more challenging in the other setting. I also just got a super supportive wife, and my kids get it. They're 11 and 9. They kind of get it. They know that I have a business now, that I'm working. It's a little bit different. So sometimes I'm doing stuff around the house, but also just trying to find that happy balance of being able to shut some stuff off and like have chunks of time where, okay, I'm from this time until bedtime, I'm not even gonna get my computer out of the briefcase. And then once it's bedtime, then I can open back up and feel like I can focus. That would be one thing. I think I've tried multitasking and like, hey, let me do a little bit here and then go play with my kids. And then
you're talking about kids' bedtime, right?
Yeah.
To tuck them in.
Yeah. I don't have a bedtime. It's just
look, as an entrepreneur, my bedtime is no.
Yeah. No, actually, I get to bed early. I try. But no, I've tried like, let me do a little bit of work and then go play, and then do a little bit of work and then go do whatever with the kids. And for me, that was not successful and not sustainable. It's better for me to just, focus my efforts on family and then focus on the business and having those chunks of time has been helpful for me, at least. I don't know how Eric's doing it. We're a little bit different. I've got older children.
Yeah.
He's got a 1-year-old.
I'm grinning about
a little
your
bit,
answer,
little bit
buddy.
different for him.
Oh yeah. Very similar though, in the sense of having a supportive wife helps. I mean, that's what really holds it all together. Because there are some days that are cool. You block off time, you can be there for family stuff, but there's other days where you're just not going to be able to be as present as you might want. So having a wife or a partner that has that long-term goal in mind of, hey, we're going to sacrifice some things now, but the end goal is this, right?
Right.
So that's super helpful. As far as I go, I've got a 19-month-old at home, so she's amazing. She's a hurricane. Similar to Dave, I like to compartmentalize a little bit. So if I'm going to focus on work, I'll focus on work. But when I want to be there with my family and be present, then I'll do that, and I'll kind of set things aside. So that helps. And her being a baby, 19 months old, it's cool. She goes to bed early, and so I'll have time at night to do some things. But
Right.
overall, it's good. It's a challenge, but it's if you're just like anything, if you're intentional about things, then it's doable and it's fine.
That is so important to I love how you guys both use that word compartmentalize, because when you are, even people that work 9 to 5s and work from home, they know this, that like all those boundaries, bleed into other things. When, your work is on your phone and, communication with clients is in the palm of your hand, it's like, these days you have to be so much more intentional. Like some families, they have like, the phone monster. It's a cardboard box with like a monster face, and everybody puts their devices in that thing, and they've found a way to make their boundaries fun. But I think that I just will say, like, I know that too with, Stephanie having her own thing. I have my own thing. There's all that flexibility, but then it's like you have to be so much more intentional. And another thing I'm dealing with right now too is I've gotten away from my early wake up times. So my daughters are getting the drop on me every morning. I say they get the drop on me when that door busts open and daddy, whatever. It's hilarious. I'm like, this is my fault that I don't have the time to do this right now. I guess, we've kind of covered like the full gamut of, I think, things that we set out to talk about. Is there anything else that we didn't discuss that you guys want to talk about or tell people listening out there?
I think we covered quite a bit of it. I agree. I think there's probably quite a few listeners out there from different walks of life. If you're a business owner or an aspiring business owner, I hope we provided some value into how you can do some networking, how you can structure certain things. And but you're also just an individual. Whoever's listening, you're an individual with a body too. And so I want to take this time to really emphasize how important it is for you to advocate for your own health. I get a little frustrated when I hear people tell me that they've been going to XYZ practitioner for, once a week for 5 years or whatever it might be. And things might not be getting better. Things are just kind of staying stagnant. I'm a huge fan of maintenance stuff. We have people that love coming in here and they'll do maintenance stuff with us as well. So I'm not trying to bag on maintenance by any means, but I think a lot of people just think that pain and dysfunction and whatever that might be is just a normal part of aging, or it's just something I got to deal with now, and I got to make my weekly appointment at so and so just to kind of get by for a couple days. And if that's you or if that's a loved one, just maybe take the time to explore a different option. Maybe find somebody who's going to help guide you in a different way. The human body is extremely adaptable, and it just takes patience, and it takes time, and it takes stimulus for adaptation. And so if you have those things, then you'd be surprised with what you can accomplish in terms of your physical goals, pain, whatever it might be. So, yeah.
That was beautiful. I'm not going to try to follow that.
Like mic drop, like that's absolutely going to be a reel that goes on Instagram. I get this sense that that's part of the value that people get when they come in here as well, that you're going to be that person. If they won't advocate for themselves, you're going to advocate for them and get them to take that seriously. Guys, I've so appreciated sitting in the room. One of the best interviews I've done on this show so far. So thank you guys. We'll have to do it again for sure.
Most definitely.
When all this growth happens. Dave, anything else you wanted to say?
No, appreciate you coming out and chatting with us. And we look forward to having you back again.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to Kansas City Business Cast. Remember to rate, subscribe, review, share the episode all you can. Appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.